Everybody, welcome into Going Public. I am Harry McCullough, joined today by David Ravelin, Executive Director of the Terrebonne Port Commission. So, Dave, thanks so much for being with us, man.
Yeah, happy to be here.
We were talking a little bit before the show. Actually, things are picking up. And things, like I say, thanks for being here because you've been very busy lately.
Yeah, we had COVID, then we had the hurricane, and, everybody had their tongue hanging out trying to get things going. And now, we're almost 2 years outside of that hurricane, and things are getting better. People are starting to build things and buy things, and that's all part of the economy. So I've been very busy for the last few months.
The Port Commission's purview, I was surprised to learn. I thought it was just the right off the industrial canal, that one slip was our port. But actually, it's everything by water, right?
We were created in 1964 by state legislature. And our jurisdiction is the entire parish of Terrebonne and all navigable waterways. So, we can really own property anywhere in the parish. We tend to stay where we are in that area because that's all industry, but we can own anything up and down the Houma Navigation Canal. We just picked up another tenant. I'm not going to say who it is yet because it's not finalized yet, but we just picked up a tenant that's already existing on the canal, and now they're going to be part of the port.
Oh, so that's awesome. And it's great to know. And look, it's the heartbeat of our economy around this area is to have, those big, look, you talk to everybody's dad grew up around here. They all work for Delta or Chromalloy.
That's how we grew up. Yeah. That was our summer jobs.
Right, right. And we all do. I work for Universal Ironworks. So, yeah, we all, what a tradition around the area. It's great.
You're not too much older than me, Harry. We... Harry and I are almost the same age. I think you're a year older than me. But yeah. Look, that's what we did when we got off of school. And in the summertime, we went to work, Right. I worked at Delta, I worked at Chromalloy, I worked at a bunch of different places, during the summertimes,
It's hard to believe they're letting a 15-year-old guy out there doing welding and painting.
Well, they thought I was 15 just because of my stature, but I was really 18,
I played baseball for Universal Ironworks, and they let me work there during the day.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was.
They got a good bang out of you.
It was a great time. So, look, hopefully the good times are back. So let's talk about that. And what a big part of what you're doing now is making sure that we can get, when we do have this work, we can get ships in and out of this HNC.
Absolutely, that's critical. We're dredging now. Right now, we're dredging in the bay and we're dredging inland. We'll start with the bay dredging, Terrebonne Bay. They had a bid opening last January 23rd with only one contractor bid, and the price was good. It was within their budget, but another contractor filed a protest. We don't know why. We don't know who, but they kept it for about 3 months, and then they canceled the contract. Okay. So
starts all over again.
It starts all over again, and we were trying to get an early dredge this year because we have some big stuff happening, and we got to get it in and out. So they did another contract with a 30-inch cut ahead and a quick contract just to get the worst areas in the bay done, and that started April 21st. So we do have a dredge out there now, and they're scheduled to dredge between mile 4.6 and 9.1. They're working from the south to the north, and they're making steady progress. It appears that they're going to be finished by May 20th. So that's going to fall just right for one of our tenants that needs to get something out, okay? And so we're also dredging. Well, let's finish this up. So it should be complete, like I said, May 20th. They did have they did do another solicitation because this dredge that's there now is just going to dredge the worst area because we got to get it dredged. They're not going to dredge the whole bay, but there's another contract falling right behind this one, but it's probably going to be late summer before they actually, get in the bay and finish or even finish up. So it's not going to help some of the tenants we have now, but they'll finally get the bay completely dredged in 2 contracts, okay? We just got our fingers crossed that they're not going to have any mechanical breakdowns, that everything works on both of those dredges. And the third dredge is the inland dredging. Okay, we starting from Cocodrie, and there was 3 areas or 4 areas that were bad. Mile 19.8 to 21.6, mile 23.7 to 25.9, mile 29.75 to mile 31, and mile 32.3 to mile 35.5. 35.5 is right at the end of coastal, and Cocodrie is way down at the bottom around the first one, mile 19.8. Well, no, actually, Cocodrie is around mile 13, but so just north of Cocodrie we're starting, but they're spot dredging because they're just dredging all the bad areas. The estimated completion of the contract is late May of 23, which is going to fall in line with what we need. They did find a lot of obstructions in the channel, mainly because of the hurricane, but we've never dredged that section since I've been port director for 17 years. So
You mean the section
north of
Yeah.
Cocodrie, and they found some rocks on the bottom at mile 23 and almost to mile 24. And so the Corps had to send a bucket dredge out there to remove it, and then the dredge came back to finish dredging, and he found some more. So that bucket dredge is expected to get out there by May 8th to remove that, so we can get all of that finished. But that's all doing well. I mean, I think, by hook or crook, we're gonna get it done and get it out.
So once you get the materials out there, you get all the equipment out there and get going. It moves kind of quick once it gets out.
It depends on the dredge. Like in the bay, we have 30-inch dredges. In the inland, we only have a 16-inch dredge. Big difference.
Twice, right?
Big difference. Yeah, but it's less than.
Right.
A 30-inch dredge could probably do 35,000 to 40,000 a day of cubic yards, and a 16-inch dredge might only do 15. It's a big difference. So it's just a matter, and then there's weather. Weather can stop them. If the weather gets bad. The inland stuff, not so much, but in the bay, you're in the Gulf of Mexico, basically.
Right. So yeah, you have to worry about weather.
Exactly.
Obviously, hurricane season will be on their way, so you want to get that cleared up. But so at 30 inches at a time, and it just kind of vacuums back and forth across is what
there's a big cut ahead on it. It's called a stinger. It comes out and there's a big cut ahead on the front of it, and it just chews up the bottom, and it's a pump that sucks it in, and it just blows it out the backside, and that's how they do it. They just keep moving it,
and it just goes across,
and they have a spud holding the barge in the back, so it can turn like this, and then they lift the spud, and they got anchors, and they pull it forward, and they put the spud back down, and they dredge, and they continue to dredge.
Right.
So.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's like watching grass grow. I mean, you can't see it. You can see it coming out, but
Sure.
it's like watching a submarine race. Okay,
Right.
you see standing on the bank in flat water, and everybody says, "What you doing?" I said, "I'm watching a submarine race." And they go, "Really? Where?" It's down there.
Underneath.
I mean, you can't see it. That's why I like to use the tunnel analogy when you're talking to people that they don't get it as easily as others do. But if you flip it and you say you have trucks that are 14 feet high, and that would be with a boat drafts the other way, okay? And they go through the tunnel, and the tunnel clearance is 15 feet.
It's going to be close.
And then one day, they wake up, and they call their boss and say, "Man, we dead in the water. Why? Because we can't get through the tunnel. Why not? Because today, the clearance is only 13 and a half, okay? And our trucks are 14. We can't go through." Well, that's what they deal with in the marine industry. Not, the clearance doesn't change in the tunnel, but if it acted like the channels do, it would, And so it's, they spend millions and millions of dollars on these huge boats to go offshore, and they can't come in and they can't go out, because of the silting. So it's a game. You just got to keep on it,
Right, right.
So they surveyed the bay, and area near mile 7, which is the area where they're dredging right now, is 13 and a half feet deep. 15 is the authorized, but when they dredge to 17 or 18. They give you a 3-foot, they call it advanced maintenance, But in that 13 and a half foot water, it includes 1 to 3 foot of fluff, which is just a soft, soupy material. When they use a hydro boat and they getting all of their data, the beam goes down, but when it hits that fluff, it's a soupy, it comes back. And it tells them it's at 13.5 feet. So then after they survey a while, they come back and they drop a lead line every 100 feet, right down in the center of the channel, and they see how far it goes down. And it goes down to 15 to 16 feet, even though you're showing 13.5. So, but still, you know, we need to get that out of there too, because that's going to eventually it's soup now, but it just takes a long time and it settles, you know. So,
and I'm sure boat captains don't want to risk that.
No,
boat,
I mean,
right?
it will damage something, you know, props, quart nozzles or something, you know,
Absolutely.
thrusters or whatever. So, but from the sea buoy, which is in mile 0, out 3 miles into the Gulf, we always have to dredge. They call it the bar channel. That's where it meets the natural 15-foot contour or 20-foot contour. And right now, that's usually a place that we have a lot of issues, but it was surveyed. It looks excellent. We got 18.5 to 22 feet in that area, so that's good.
So yeah, the bar channel looks good, and right. So if you can just get that, then yeah, a lot of stuff that is going on, particularly as the port, as we talk about, starts picking up.
Yeah,
it'll be a good time to get that all cleaned up. All right, we got plenty more to talk about. We'll take a break. We'll be right back with more Going Public right after this.
In South Louisiana, storms are a way of life. Every storm poses a different threat, whether from flooding or hurricane-force winds. At All South Consulting Engineers, we help protect our people from these disasters. Before a storm, we work with our leaders to prevent catastrophic damage. After the storm, we help get the resources needed for rebuilding. We have helped our cities, parishes, and school boards recover over $2 billion to rebuild our community. We'll be here for the next one.
A new company with a lot of history. GIS Engineering has rapidly grown its brand around an experienced team of professionals. GIS Engineering is a full-service planning, engineering, procurement, and construction management company specializing in coastal protection and restoration, upstream and downstream industrial, and transportation infrastructure projects. Putting people first, GIS Engineering, a new company with a lot of history.
Led by a 7-member commission, the Terrebonne Port was created to assist our local industry in promoting economic development. We monitor government regulations that affect our local industry and work with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to secure maintenance dredging funds. Because the HNC is the main artery for the heartbeat of Terrebonne's economy, Terrebonne Port fights a constant battle for funding to maintain the federally authorized navigable depth. We are now leasing waterfront and non-waterfront property. Terrebonne Port Commission, serving our industry to keep Terrebonne thriving.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Going Public. Harry McCullough here, along with David Ravelet, of course, the Port Commission. And so what's the update on the deepening process of the HNC as far as we're doing that?
All right, well, we phase 1 of the deepening is from Cocodrie to the sea buoy. That's we selected it as phase 1. We've identified all the pipelines that are in that area. We probed them and found them and got with the oil companies to find out whether they were abandoned or they had material in them or whatever. And so now we're meeting with the oil companies. They're finalizing some of the surveys, but they're meeting with the pipeline companies, Hillcore and ConocoPhillips, to get status on the pipelines and figure out, if they need to be lowered or who's responsible for lowering. They got to go research all the right-of-ways and everything else. So we're going to continue to set up meetings with these companies along the southern reach to present survey info and discuss remediation efforts as required.
Are some of those companies not here anymore with the abandoned ones?
No, they abandoned. Well, some of them, yeah, some of them probably not here. But when a company buys another company, it's theirs. Okay, when you say abandoned, it means that they're not using it anymore.
I got you.
Okay, and the permits address that. So those are not a problem. It's the ones that we have to lower that's going to cost. Okay. And we continuing to we already started going north from Cocodrie and starting to identify all of those pipelines and utilities, and there's like 80 of them, so we got a bunch of them to deal with. I mean, there's water lines, sewer lines, electric lines, pipelines, all kinds of stuff. We're also looking at reviewing all the abstract info concerning the pipeline right-of-way agreements and permits correlating to various pipelines. So that's just something that you got to do. You got to do a lot of research on it. Once you get your game plan, then you go sit down with the oil company. We're going to continue to focus on LERDs, okay? Land easements, rights-of-ways, relocations, and dredge disposals, which is all of that, okay? Right. It's all the pipeline lowering. It's identifying right-of-ways for the spoil disposal when we get in the inland reaches. So it's a lot involved in all of that. This past on April 21st, Friday, we got the colonel and the corps down to our office. We had DOTD, we had the parish, we had TITA, and a lot of industry people, and Colonel Cullen Jones is the new colonel, and we took him on a boat tour, and he's a new colonel, so we wanted him to see it. If you don't see it and you sit down and look at paper all day, you don't appreciate the scale of everything, and so he got to see it firsthand, and he loved it, and he said it really blew him away because he just never visualized it being that big, Mm-hmm. So then we gave him a presentation after. I showed him my little video, okay, and we talked to him about the deepening and how important it was for them to keep pushing on their end and all that stuff. So it was a good meeting, a really good meeting. A couple people told me we hit it out of the park because it was just it was needed, and it was the right timing, and the colonel appreciated us inviting him, and we fed him lunch, and so it was very good.
That's the Corps of Engineers?
Corps of Engineers, New Orleans district.
I got you.
They're the busiest district in the country. They got more water here than they got anywhere else in the country. So naturally, they're just busy.
Is he located in D.C. or down
No,
here?
he's in New Orleans. Yeah. So, but that's about it on the northern. We also continue to review the capital outlay money. Okay, that's that and the federal money. We have to make sure they continue to flow, because if it doesn't, everything stops. So it's
might have a debt ceiling thing going on June 1st, they were saying, but anyway, that hopefully that doesn't affect us or the
no, it's they I'll get in that. We're gonna go to Washington D.C. right now. Okay, so the big winner of the week was Speaker Kevin McCarthy, and the Republicans voted to raise the debt limit into next year around March and put caps on discretionary spending. House Republican wins in the legislation that passed last week was, and this was all in the same bill, repealing Biden's student loan plan, clawing back IRS money, clawing back unspent COVID-19 money, instituting stricter work requirements for Medicaid, food stamps, and welfare recipients, speeding up energy permit requirements, stimulating domestic and oil and gas production while reducing reliance on Chinese critical minerals. So the legislation passed the House. Okay, now it's got to go to the Senate. The Senate is majority Democrat. So it's going to have a tough time passing.
They're going to have to negotiate.
Yeah, they're going to have to send it to a committee, a joint committee between the Senate and the House. But it puts pressure on the Senate majority to act, because the Republicans can now say, we did our job. It's time for the White House to sit down with us to negotiate. Because they hadn't been negotiating.
Right.
It's like it's just been.
They didn't have to.
Yeah. So anyway.
Those are all things that they're talking about. We talked to Senator Kennedy earlier this week, and
they're gearing up for it.
They're gearing up for it, and he's a senator, and when you have the president and the senator, Obviously, they can't just pass a bill. They're not going to pass a bill that comes from the
Republicans.
Congress.
Yeah.
But they will at least now have to negotiate.
Exactly. So Majority Leader Houma doubted House Speaker McCarthy's ability to pass anything in the House, but McCarthy proved him wrong. Now Mr. Houma is still saying he wants a clean debt limit increase with no strings attached. If you saw every year when they had the majority Democrats in the House, they would send these bills for the debt ceiling to the Senate with more, I call it pork, than anything I've ever seen. But now they're complaining about, a little bit. So anyway, that's just the way our government works,
Now, look, there's no chance that they start cutting funding for ports, that kind of stuff.
We hope not.
Right.
All of this is tied together. So, so this year we're asking for about $1 million and hope from the feds to go to the Corps to continue their work. And the state we're asking for, I think, $30 million.
Right. So
because we got to do the LERDs.
Hey, something you mentioned earlier, and you talking about part of the LERDs is disposal of the
material.
The material. I see Fouchon has had a great success story building land.
Exactly.
Can we do that here, or is it a different type of environment?
It's a different kind of material, but it's still very fertile. When we do the inland reach of the deepening, we're going to place all of that material in open water areas on the land, like ponds and everything else. So we're going to try to do a lot of that on the inland reaches. The reach between Cocodrie and the Gulf, it's much more difficult because there's nowhere to put it, and you would have to string miles and miles of pipelines and booster pumps to pump the material, which is a tremendous cost. So the Corps, they dredge it. They pay. The federal government pays for it, but they just place it, in the bay. They place it 100 yards outside the channel on the west side and let Mother Nature just take it on its way. If we want them to beneficially use the material and utilize it on barrier islands or whatever, they'll do it. But we got to pay that extra cost, and it's in the millions, to do that. So. We did it once. I think DNR put up money. This was years ago, maybe 15, 16 years ago. And it cost them a couple $1 million. They put the material behind one of the islands, and within the year, it was all gone, So they just, you get a bad taste in your mouth. You got to spend that kind of money,
Right.
But House Republicans capped the discretionary spending, and they figured they'd say with the bill, and this is not a lot, $3 billion over a decade. It's not a lot of money, okay, but that's what they took out of the budget, and let's see, the Democrats are feeling that this is going to be too much over too many programs. So Schumer sent a message that he wants to hold Senate hearings highlighting what these cuts will do. So. We'll wait,
Well, Dave, you actually have a trip planned to D.C. pretty soon. So
not next week, but the following week.
What do you hope to accomplish when you go there?
We're going to go meet with our delegation. It helps to go show your face and meet with them, and otherwise they forget about you. So we're going to go meet with Congressman Scalise, Congressman Graves. We'll probably meet with Senator Kennedy and Senator Cassidy.
And how long do you get to stay up there, and how accommodating are those guys when you come up there?
Well, we have a lobbyist. So the lobbyist sets all these meetings up, and we're flying in like a Wednesday evening, and we're going to have an all-day Thursday to meet everybody, and then we're flying back out Friday morning.
Do you go by yourself, or is it a delegation?
I'm going, O'Neill, and Gordy may come. I'm not sure yet, but so that's where we're going. All these entities, levee districts, ports, you name it, they go to Washington at least once a year.
Right.
Fouchon goes 5 times a year at least.
Right.
Y'all
don't combine, no. Y'all all go kind of individually.
No, everybody has their own their own needs.
Right.
And we definitely support everybody.
Sure.
But it's
like you said, when we have the biggest core in the area, that
Exactly. There's 36
it makes
ports
a
in
difference.
Louisiana.
Right.
Okay, and I mean there's nothing you can do about that. But the government's funding them, and because they all create jobs. That's the bottom line.
Right, absolutely. Well, David, we appreciate it, Executive Director of the Terrebonne Port Commission. Have a good trip to D.C., and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be right back. That was Going Public. We'll see you next time.